Here's another epic video for you, live stream. Saint Francis, brother of the universe, his complete life story. Saint Francis of Assisi, medieval Italian saint, published by none other than Marvel Comics Group, 1980, illustrated by the renowned John Buscema, and illustrated by Marie Severin, which is pretty cool. Right here you can see in the credits, John Buscema layouts, that means pencils, and Marie Severin did the inking. Jim Shooter was the editor at the time, and this is a great comic. This is the first religious comic that Marvel published. And there are a couple others, including of Pope John Paul II, I believe, and Mother Teresa of Calcutta was another one. But this one is pretty good the drawing of this one is pretty good. The inking, I'm not really, if you're used to seeing John Buscema inked up by Alfredo Alcala or Tony DeZuniga and epic inkers like that, Marie Severin's style is a little different. But regardless, that's the team behind this. And the story of Francis, Saint Francis, brother of the universe, patron saint of animals. Here, I'll get my Bible out of the way here. That just happened to be on that chair, by the way. So I'll just kind of go through some of the artwork here in this title with you guys, starting with Francis as a young man who grew up in privilege, really. His father being a merchant clothier, not as wealthy as the nobles of the county, but Francis was renowned for showing the nobles a good time. They're playing music and cavorting, but they do have to go off and do these wars with neighboring principalities that are against the edicts of Rome and the Catholic Church, and that seems to be an ongoing theme in this book. Either way, Francis is not really the warrior, despite his best intentions to want to be a knight and bring back that kind of pride and prestige to the family. So, he dreams of this kind of honor, and when it's finally time for him to suit up in his armor and go, and he's got the most expensive armor, more so than the plebeian soldiers. And in this one instance, he gives his armor to a fellow soldier and basically leaves the campaign, leaves the battlefield to go on this visionary quest that he gets right on the eve of battle. So on the eve of battle, St. Francis basically bails, giving his expensive armor to another person. And it's pitched here as, oh, this is so gracious that you've given me this armor. But, really the fact is that St. Francis just didn't go into battle. So he subsequently goes on these pilgrimages, finding out what God has in store for him. And he does a lot of praying, and he goes into the wilderness a lot and really upsets his father, who, has given him everything. And actually, Francis comes back home and basically steals some of his father's wholesale cloth material that he sold his business and gave it away, or used it to fund this new formed group of followers that he has accumulated, that people are attracted to him by staying very true to the Gospels. That's really a thing of his, is to follow the life of Jesus as closely as possible. And that entails regular fasting and just living out in nature. And he he gets these visions about rebuilding the church from Jesus. Now, if you're familiar with the inking of Alfredo Alcala or Tony De Zuniga and others, you'll see the difference here. Here's Marie Severin inking this, and these faces you can see are just a little bit more of an elementary style than some of the more I don't know if you say intricate styles or kind of higher contrast, intricate styles of those other inkers I mentioned. But either way, this is the first publication I have inked by Marie Severin, so I'm really, really happy to have that. And of course, you can see Buscema's work coming through. I mean, just look at his faces there. And all right, so let's go through this. So finally, Francis meets the Pope. Now, in the Middle Ages, if someone started attracting attention like Francis, that could prick up the ears of Rome, and not in a good way. So Francis basically has to petition the Pope at the time to Bishop Guido, is what he's... Well, anyway, Bishop Guido takes him to the Pope, and they discuss things, because the Pope says, "Oh, Francis, you've been getting a little big now." And but anyway, the Pope gives Francis his blessing to go forth. And actually, back here, this page back here has to do with one of the bishops or somebody actually giving Francis his robe. Oh, that's right. Francis, I believe, strips naked and gives up all his worldly possessions or something like this. And then one of the church fathers gives him his robe. And at that point, Francis is lock, stock, and barrel in the Catholic Church, and begins to develop this following. I'll just go through some of the pages here. Again, approaching the Pope to get good Grace's permission to carry on with his order of the Franciscans. The San Francisco was named after St. Francis, as well as so many other things, but the San Franciscan order is still extant today. And then the whole thing with St. Francis being the patron saint of animals in this story, and by the way, in the preface here, I was reading how Marvel Comics actually, they actually commissioned people in the Catholic Church, in the Franciscan Chapel Center, real Franciscans, to collaborate on this work. So this is not just some flim-flam publication here. This was a vetted, researched publication about the life. So the story here, or the fable goes, that there was this wolf that was killing people in the village, and Francis was called to summon this wolf, and he controls the wolf and calls the wolf Brother Wolf. I offer you a bargain that the people of the village will feed you if you must stop killing the people. And the wolf just kind of gives him the stink eye. But the wolf doesn't kill any more people. So Francis gets this reputation, right, among the animals. He has this, telepathic power with the animals. And everywhere he speaks, birds begin to flock around. So that, again, this is how that narrative develops of Francis as the patron saint of animals. And once more, another meeting with the Pope, more petitioning, and giving grant and access to continue with the Franciscan order, basically. I don't know if it was called that back then, but that's effectually what was happening. And then Francis goes on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. And then that's what this is all about, the battles, the bloody battles in Jerusalem and the Holy Land. And Francis becomes the only Christian, apparently, to survive behind Arabian Saracen lines. And he actually approaches them, which would usually mean a sign of death. Die, infidel dogs, kill them. No, wait, these look like holy men. We better take them to the Sultan. Okay, the Crusades are all about the warring factions of the Christians and the Arabs and the Jews all warring for the Holy Land, and still today, really. So the legend is that Francis is brought to the Sultan, who actually listens to Francis and gives him leniency. Francis asks the Sultan to become Christian, which is quite a brazen invitation. But regardless, the Sultan sets him free, and they become friends in a way. And he visits the palaces at Jerusalem, the Jordan River, of course, where St. John the Baptist baptized Jesus, Bethlehem, Nazareth. I really like Buscema's architectural style. You can see that all there. Those of you who are still watching this live stream, you're watching it because you love this kind of artwork as I do. I know we're a very niche crowd. We who like this vintage comic stuff, especially amongst the best artists. And then Francis becomes disheartened as his order is becoming basically slothful. They're rebelling against him, saying he's too strict, too much fasting, too much deprivation of the pleasures of life. And Francis goes and prays and just says, God, you got to help me here. My order is just, they're not with the program of the way I want to live in suffering the way Jesus did, basically. That was kind of the deal, is to suffer and to have the suffering and humility, fasting, things like this. And then Jesus comes to him and he says that Francis has got to do the same. He's got to do the same and continue to basically suffer. Well, Francis gets another vision on Mount La Verna with a seraphim angel and the Christ figure there. And actually receives something of a transformation of energy. I mean, this is very Marvel Comics, right? We might be looking at an episode of the Fantastic Four here in that upper panel. But he's given this blast of energy, and subsequently, Francis has the stigmata, or the marks of Christ, on his hands and ankles. He comes down from the wilderness, and the marks of the stigmata are observed by the people in his community, and these wounds do not heal. He's comforted by an old friend, Sister Claire. This is a very nice drawing here of Sister Claire. One thing I love about John Buscema is his treatment of women. I mean, he's just the best to me. And it's just, that's a nice image right there. So they're singing, and this brings to mind later on in the issue that Francis was a big advocate of community singing, not just Latin liturgical music, but also Christmas and folk music associated with Christianity. that the commoners would sing. And there's a sign of auspicion of the divine love of fire, or the fire of divine love. But Francis takes ill soon after. He's been weakened through his life of fasting and suffering and deprivation. That's what's alluded to here. And then as he leaves these earthly bonds, the last pages go to show how Assisi has been a city of peace ever since. Well, never had civil strife since then, but we know in the Great World Wars there were certainly problems all throughout Italy. How Assisi has inspired artists and poets throughout the centuries, as well as academia and religious eschatology and religious Christian scholarship. As well as the Franciscan order that's still extant today. Saint Francis may be said to live on. I thank my Father for a brother such as you. Jesus Francis. It's kind of a nice splash page there. Here's a Canticle of the Sun from an adapted Broadway play called Francis. Some of you may be aware of that. And some basic maps back here. But this is really neat. The last page of this. The creche used at Christmas time among Christians dates back to Saint Francis and putting the animals around the creche, apparently. Singing popular Christmas songs, caroling, goes back to the medieval period in the 1200s, when Francis was around. That's still ongoing today with our modern singers here. And then other facts about St. Francis and his followers. He's a very popular saint, and his history is very interesting considering he came from an upper-class family, denounced his status in life, his wealth, any inheritance, what have you, and instead opted to live in the wilderness, throw down the armor, to go to war, and instead chose to live in the wilderness and preach the Gospels, and became the patron saint of animals because of a couple of those instances revealed in this comic. So good job, Marvel Comics. It really is a piece of history here. 1980. John Buscema is why I picked this up, my favorite comic artist, or top three anyway. I hope you guys enjoy this. Please post your comments below. Thanks for watching.